of former police officer Derek Chauvin involved emotional testimony from people death of George Floyd. Among those witnesses, the teenage girl who recorded that disturbing video of Floyd's final moments. Darnella Frazier broke down in tears discussing the cell phone video she posted nearly a year ago and how it has changed her life. Prosecutors Tuesday called her and 5 other eyewitnesses to the stand. They described the horror they felt as they urged Officer Chauvin to release Floyd. One man said he believed he was witnessing a murder. CBS News correspondent Jamie Yuccas is in Minneapolis with the latest.
Returning to the stand for a second day, Donald Williams, the mixed martial artist who witnessed George Floyd's death. He says Derek Chauvin had Floyd in a blood choke, a type of stranglehold that constricts blood flow.
Did call the police on the police.
Right. And why did you do that?
Because I believe I witnessed a murder.
The prosecution played that 911 call.
Officer 97 killed in front of a Chicago store. He just pretty much just killed this guy that wasn't resisting arrest. He had his knee on the dude's neck the whole time.
Williams wiped away tears as he listened. Voice also captured on video, along with a growing number of bystanders pleading with officers.
Get off of his neck, bro. Get off of his neck!
The defense focused on Williams' behavior toward the officers that day.
After you called him a bum 13 times, you called him a bum.
That's what you heard?
The prosecution's next witness, 18-year-old Darnella Frazier. She was 17 when she shot this now infamous cell phone video. And she was among 4 witnesses today whose faces were not shown on camera because they were minors at the time of Floyd's death.
It wasn't right. He was suffering. He was in pain.
Prosecutor Jerry Blackwell asked Frazier how this has impacted her life.
When I look at George Floyd, I look at my dad, I look at my brothers, I look at my cousins, my uncles. They are all black. It's been nights. I stayed up apologizing and apologizing to George Floyd for not doing more.
Frazier's 9-year-old cousin Judea also testifying about what she saw.
How did it affect you?
I was sad and kind of mad.
And late today, testimony from Minneapolis firefighter and eyewitness Genevieve Hansen, trained to save lives, but she says prevented from doing so by the officers.
Were you frustrated?
Yes.
At one point, more than half of the jurors were seen taking detailed notes. Tomorrow, the prosecution will likely start calling witnesses considered X in their field to detail how Chauvin's hold contributed to Floyd's death. Elaine?
Jamie Yuccas, thank you. For more, I'm joined by Venu Varghese. Venu is a criminal defense attorney and a former prosecutor. Venu, welcome. It's good to see you. So we heard testimony from Genevieve Hansen, a Minneapolis firefighter who was off duty at the time, but still tried to intervene and get officers to check for a pulse on George Floyd. How important was her testimony?
I think all these witnesses are harmful for Derek Chauvin. I mean, you have a series of witnesses that are recounting things in emotional detail. But the good thing for Chauvin is that this trial will take a long time. It'll be spread out over the next couple of weeks. And by the time that the jury hears or gets to closing arguments, the emotional impact of these witnesses will have it. So by that point, they're going to hear arguments and they're going to get back to the cold reality of it, which is, did Derek Chauvin kill George Floyd? Yes, he's involved in his death, but did he murder him? Or did he commit manslaughter? These are legal terms, and those are the terms and the things that his lawyer will be doing to put reasonable doubt into these jurors' minds. So yes, it's a rough day, but it's a long trial.
Well, we also heard from the teenager who captured that video of the arrest. How critical is her testimony and the video itself to this case?
Well, the video is what the prosecution is banking on. You have a video that appears to be brutal. It appears that Chauvin put his knee on the neck, causing the death, and you see George Floyd fade into oblivion and die right before your eyes. The question is, was he the main cause of his death? Did he do it intentionally? Did he do it with such reckless disregard for human life? These are legal terms. So in terms of the teenager, just like the EMT, just like all these witnesses, they have an emotional impact. Eventually, the more these witnesses the prosecution brings forth, the more dull the impact will be, because eventually the jury is going to get tired. So at a certain point, the prosecution has to say to itself, okay, when's enough is enough? But who knows if they will make that choice and continue, or will they continue on this path?
And Venu, you touched on this and how emotional this is. Several witnesses described how they perceived Derek Chauvin during George Floyd's arrest. One described him as hostile. Another said he had looked heartless. How might these testimonies impact prosecutors' case?
Look, these are impressions, right? But only Derek Chauvin knows what was in his own mind. And if he is going to get out of this, he's going to need to testify. And he has an advantage here. Unlike 99.9% of people who testify at trials, other than expert witnesses, he's actually had training in testifying. You're given training as a police officer on how to testify before a grand jury, a trial jury, and to face hostile cross-examination from defense lawyers like me. So he will have, in this case, the roles are reversed. He's going to face the questioning from the prosecutors. So he's going to need to explain to the world what he was thinking and why he did what he did. That, combined with the medical evidence that George Floyd was high, that he had all these health problems, could lead to a reasonable doubt verdict.
Well, finally, as we heard in Jamie's piece, there were some tense moments between defense attorney Eric Nelson and Donald Williams, who witnessed George Floyd's death. Now, the defense focused on Williams' behavior and name-calling toward the officers. What was the defense's strategy there?
I think it was actually a very sound, smart strategy on the part of Mr. Nelson. I've been critical of Nelson and some of the way he's conducted jury selection on some other networks that I've commented on, but I think today was very good for him, and I think he'll come back to this by not portraying. By Williams, he's going to say Williams was a biased witness for whatever feelings he had, that he's not a real expert, and ultimately, there's an issue here that they've created for appeal. I mean, Williams basically gave the equivalent of expert testimony. You shouldn't be both a fact witness and an expert, right? So he's there trying to give testimony on what he believes is murder, but he's too emotionally charged. He's not detached. And so this is stuff that's going to help the defense, at least on appeal, and hopefully for Chauvin, for his sake, here, because he's going to say that this witness was biased and could not give proper testimony. In fact, the chokehold, the hold that Chauvin used was legal, was permitted in Minnesota. So therefore, how could it be a death hold? How could it be what he had described over the course of 2 days as a life being sucked out of him?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I imagine that some people, though, watching may say to themselves, you know, it would certainly be understandable that if someone was witnessing something that they believe to be murder, that they would, in fact, act in an emotional way, and that would be something that would certainly stay with them and not necessarily cloud their ability to discuss what it is that they witnessed, emotional or not. But